Hello, friends and colleagues. Gus Prestera here. I'm hoping to talk to you about competencies today, and in particular, walk you through an example of how we're using competencies to drive better conversations between managers and employees, conversations about performance, professional development, leadership development, and career development, all of which are helping to promote higher retention levels, higher engagement levels, higher productivity. So let me walk you through a quick example and show you a tool that we are using. Let me share my screen. And what you should see on screen here is the Mentor Legacy Competency Guide. This is just a competency model. You can substitute for it any leadership development competency model that you have, any technical competency model. It doesn't really matter. You know, that's going to be specific to your organization, specific to jobs. But for this particular one, let's say we drill down into one of these 4 competency domains, and we have a page just dedicated to that where we have more specifics. And I'm going to zoom in on that and slide down here. And so just the part what I want to show you is it listed in each of these rows is a behavioral description of a competency. And a competency is knowledge, skills, abilities needed to do a job, to be effective in a particular job. And so but sometimes it's difficult for people to get their heads around it. So we try to express those competencies in a behavioral way that's easy for folks to visualize, you know, and assess themselves and assess others. So the first part of the assignment that we would ask managers and employees to complete is, you know, managers, send this competency guide out to your employees and ask them to do a self-assessment. Take a quick inventory of their skills. It shouldn't take more than a few minutes. And so they go down through these different descriptions and indicate here adequately proficient is key strength, adequately proficient. The development opportunity, maybe I'm not that organized well enough, etc. So they go through this and pretty quickly self-assess. By itself, just that portion of the exercise is starting to help them develop some mindfulness around this, right? To be aware of the behaviors that lead to success. That's helpful by itself, to understand where the goalposts are, right? And number 2, it's helping to develop some self-awareness, right? So they're reflecting and thinking about how their knowledge and skills relate to these. So that's really helpful from that standpoint. But of course, that's just part of the assignment. The second part is for the manager and the employee to have a conversation around this. And so the manager might follow up a week or 2 later and say, hey, you know, did you finish? Did you go through that competency guide? Did you do your self-assessment? Yes. Okay, great. It will take a few minutes to just walk me through your thought process. And maybe they just focus in on one competency domain for the purposes of this conversation. And maybe they tackle other competency domains in other one-on-ones that they have. And as they're going through this, it gives the manager an opportunity to hear what the employee is saying about these different competencies and how they see themselves and how they understand the nature of the work, right? And then what it takes to succeed. So that's really valuable, just to get that insight as a manager. To hear that from your employees is really valuable. But then for your employees to hear back from you some affirmation, some feedback about what they're saying is also valuable for them. So for perhaps you might find that you agree with a lot of these, and that's great, and you can give some additional examples, and that helps affirm their self-assessments. In other cases, you might disagree. You might say, hey, look, you said that you're adequately proficient and advised, but I think that's actually a key strength of yours. And here's some reasons why, some examples. It gives you an opportunity to talk about that. Maybe with critique, it's maybe I don't know that that I see it as a key strength. I hear your examples, but from where I stand, I think it's something that's really more of something you're adequately proficient in. And then maybe you agree or disagree about organized being a development opportunity. And again, you can either affirm or course correct some of the misperceptions that people might have about themselves. And that's really valuable. And you can do it in the context of talking about competencies that are out here, right? They're established competencies, as opposed to you just talking about your opinion about things. And I think both for both the employee and the manager, having this common frame of reference that is external and a bit more objective is a really valuable thing. Right? It helps take a little bit of the bias out of it and gives both of them a common frame of reference to leverage. So they had this conversation around this, and coming out of it, they hopefully have some agreement around where the key strengths are and where the development opportunities are. And then from there, they shift the conversation to what can we do about that, right? So how can we leverage your strengths, put you in a position where you can use those more, give you some assignments and things like that that really enable you to shine. That helps to accelerate your career development. And then how can we also do some things that help you address some of the development opportunities? Maybe if you lack organizational skills, let's talk about how some of the things you might do. Read a book, watch a movie, watch some videos, get some mentoring, do some shadowing, observation, whatever it is, right? Some assignments that might involve needing to use some organizational skills. Whatever that is, those work their way into action items over here on the right-hand side, which can be short-term ones, weekly, monthly things, quarterly things, annual things that work their way into an individual development plan or something like that. So the conversation goes from one of introspection to one of dialogue to one of building some sort of a plan together. And then now the manager has an excuse to follow up on this plan on a regular basis and keep revisiting this conversation. And that really changes the nature of their interactions, because otherwise they would be talking about a lot of operational details, troubleshooting, that kind of stuff, right? Tactical stuff. But this is a much more strategic conversation. It is a more growth-oriented conversation, and the kind of conversation that is going to make the employee feel that you actually care about them, that you care about their future, not just what they can deliver for you today. And so that, to me, is a really valuable piece of all this. And that is the part that really helps with retention. It helps with employee engagement and productivity. When employees feel that the organization, and in particular their manager, cares about them and their development, their growth, their life, it really means something special to them, and they respond accordingly. So I encourage managers, HR leaders, training folks to revisit competencies. If it's not part of what you're planning for this year, give it another look. It's not the sexiest and most glamorous of things. It's not going to be trending anywhere, but it's the kind of thing that, much like process improvement and building standards and all that kind of stuff, it's not glamorous, but those things work, right? And when in difficult times like this, a lot of ambiguity, people want clarity. People want something solid and stable. Competencies are part of that answer, right? Part of what can give them some of that clarity and stability and give them something to grab onto. So I think it's particularly important in these difficult times. Anyway, please let me know if you have questions or I can be of any help. Meanwhile, take care, and I'll talk to you soon.